What's up, amigos? It's the Prodigy Maker Minute with Chris Lewitt. As you may know, I'm the former #1 for Cornell University, pro circuit player, elite junior development coach, and author and educator, author of The Secrets of Spanish Tennis and the Tennis Technique Bible. Well, something exciting that's coming up is that there's a big project by NPR Europe, and they're doing a radio show talking about Alcaraz and Spanish tennis. It's a story, a piece by one of the top journalists in Europe. And I was fortunate enough to be chosen to do some interviews for that. So I'm very excited. That will be coming out soon this month, where NPR is a big radio station channel. And that story will be all over all of the affiliates of NPR. So we should get that piece in the US as well as in Europe. And so you will hear some of my commentary about Spanish tennis. And also I connected the project, the lead on that project with many of the greats of Spanish tennis. So there should be some interesting commentary about Alcaraz and the future of the Spanish game and the history of Spanish tennis. And that should all be coming around the opening of the French Open of Roland Garros. So check that out. Look for that. If you're an NPR fan, you should be hearing my voice on the radio soon for that piece. Kind of exciting. One thing I was talking about with the reporter that I think is fascinating is that Franco, the dictator in Spain, who had brutal dictatorship and ruled Spain with an iron fist, was a huge tennis fan. And he's partly responsible for the tennis boom in the country, starting in the early 1970s, mid-1970s. And what he did was, maybe even late 60s, but according to the history that I discovered, he was a huge tennis fan, and he was a big fan of Manolo Santana, who was a great tennis player from Spain during that era. And what he wanted was for the proletariat, for the general population in Spain, he wanted them to take up tennis. So what he did was he funneled a lot of investment into regional tennis clubs all across the country, and he basically helped sponsor the sport all across Spain. And so it's an interesting history, very interesting history detail from Spain, where you have this dictator who wanted the sport to become the most popular sport for the masses, or one of the most popular sports for the masses in Spain. And essentially he succeeded before he left power. He left power in 1975 in Spain. And after that dictatorship, Spain flourished into a democracy, a peaceful democracy. And the people were free. The people became free in Spain. And one of the things that happened was a lot of those families that had young children, they picked up the game of tennis that Franco had initially basically underwritten and put a lot of money into clubs, facilities, programs and such to try to get the game in, get more people to play the game. And so as a result, one of the repercussions of that is that in the late 70s, early 80s, Spain started to have success more success than ever before at the international level. And sure enough, as the late 80s and 90s rolled in, Spain had this incredible rise to the top of the world with the rise of the Spanish Armada. Many of the great Spanish players of that era, like Emilio Sanchez and Juan Carlos Ferrero. And interestingly, at that time, there was a young Nadal. Nadal was, I think, born in 86, if I recall. I may have that date wrong. But basically, Nadal came along in the mid 80s, and became the greatest champion that Spain's ever had, standing on the shoulders of that first or second of the players from the first and second wave, who probably got into the game at their local club due to the investments and due to the push by Ferdinand Franco, the dictator. So it's just a fascinating turn of history in Spain, how a dictator's passion for a sport could help grow the game at the grassroots level, which eventually led to more players playing the game, more players getting serious about the game, and more champions at the international level. Another interesting part of the history is that in 1992, the Barcelona Olympics also funneled a lot of money, put a lot of investment into facilities, into tennis, basically, all around the country. And that also had a big impact on the growth and development of tennis in Spain. So there is this history of the wonderful teaching system of Spain, the influence of Luis Bruguera and Pato Alvarez, these genius coaches. That's one side of the story. And then there are other aspects more fundamentally, in terms of monetary investments, in terms of structural changes in the country that contributed to the growth of Spain as a world tennis superpower. So kind of a perfect storm, 80s, 90s, and then with Nadal, this amazing once in generations type of player. And now, possibly now we're in the 2020s, another potential great in Carlos Alcaraz, potentially another Nadal type of player who transcends the game. So Spain has been very lucky, very fortunate in some respects with the individual athletes it's had, but there's also been major structural reasons why they've had success. And because of their coaching system, because of the coaching methodology and the great dynamic forces of the impact of Luis Bruguera, Pato Alvarez, and a whole host of other wonderful coaches like Tony Nadal and many other dynamic coaching talents in Spain. So that's an interesting part of the history of Spain. If you like this Prodigy Maker Minute, please check out my big show, the Prodigy Maker Show. We should probably do a whole show about the history of Spanish tennis. It'd be fascinating. It'd be fun to answer your questions and also talk about it.